Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, August 9th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. A Palestinian employee of the UN Development Program in Gaza is suspected of using his position to assist Hamas military activities. 38-year-old Wahid Borash of the Jabalia refugee camp was arrested by the Shin Bet and police at the Erez crossing in July. He was indicted at the Beersheva District Court this morning, charged with assisting the terror organization. Details released for publication reveal that Borash, an engineer, worked for the UN organization from 2003 and was tasked with demolishing homes damaged in conflicts with Israel and removing the waste to demolition sites. In 2014, a senior Hamas official allegedly approached him and asked him to assist the terror organization. Last year, he assisted in constructing a naval marine for the Hamas military wing in northern Gaza, using the resources provided to him by the UN group. The civil administration this morning demolished 5 illegal structures in the South Hebron Hills. At least 3 of the unauthorized houses were funded by the European Union and built by the Palestinian Authority. The NGO B'Tselem released this video of the demolition and said that 27 Palestinians, including 16 minors, were left homeless. The structures were hastily built in the village of Al-Keo, right next to the Jewish community of Carmel, and flew the EU flag. Settler leaders have complained that Israeli authorities have been reluctant to enforce the law, and Palestinians have been building thousands of illegal houses in Area C. Head of the Har Hebron Regional Council, Yochi Damari, praised the civil administration demolitions today and said he hoped it signaled a new trend. The European Union should exit Israel. This according to Josh Haston of Regavim, an Israeli NGO which monitors illegal air building. Speaking to IBA's Ari O'Sullivan, Haston said EU funding was aiding the Palestinians stage a massive land grab across Judea and Samaria.
Recently, our people in the field are seeing a sharp increase in the Har Hebron area. All of a sudden, you come back from Shabbat on a Sunday and you see all these illegal European Union structures throughout the Har Hebron area. And the Regavim field workers did their due diligence, and they found these illegal buildings, reported them to the civil administration, and they acted, and we're very happy about that.
So is this land that belongs to the Palestinians? Is it state-owned land?
Yeah, we're talking about state-owned land in Area C, and what the Palestinians via the EU are trying to do. They're trying to create a de facto Palestinian Authority state in the field by seizing lands. They're claiming it for humanitarian reasons, but we know that that's not the case. This is really a land grab, and they're using these people actually as pawns to go set up on these areas and set up these buildings. And what they're really trying to do, the Palestinian Authority, with full funding from the European Union, we're talking about hundreds of millions of euro, are trying to set up these enclaves, these illegal structures, in order to seize the land, in order to take over Area C and create this de facto Palestinian state.
What do you expect is going to happen? What is Regavim calling for?
We're calling for the European Union to exit Israel. This is, again, a violation of international law, what they're doing, getting involved in an internal Israeli issue. The Israeli government has proposed, whether you're talking about the Bedouin in the south or other areas of the country, those residents who want to just live normally, peacefully, the government has put together solutions, and they're being encouraged by these entities, by the PA, by the EU, not to take any of these deals offered by the government, because this is not their goal. Their goal is to establish illegal facts on the ground, in this case in Area C, and we're calling on the civil administration to continue to do what they did today and demolish the legal structures and uphold it with the rule of law here in Israel.
Well, are you saying that without the EU they wouldn't be able to build these things?
It would be very difficult. I mean, you're talking about over 100 million euros. I mean, 2012 alone, the EU dedicated or allocated over 100 million euros to these projects. So it's much easier when you have a backer as big as the EU, that has as much influence as the EU. You talk about people, they're the money men behind the deal. So it would definitely be a lot harder for them to continue this activity without European Union support. And that's what they're doing, and that's why they're using the EU.
Okay, final question. I mean, these people, Palestinians, they need houses to live in. So what do you say about that?
So I would say that they should go move into houses which are legal in the legal communities. A lot of these people have residency in some of the communities, in some of the towns nearby. And again, they're being directed out by the PA, by the EU, to go live illegally in these illegal structures out in these areas in order to seize the land. So on one hand, they're being used as pawns. On the other hand, they're being giving these incentives to go out and continue this illegal activity. So, you know, they should be allowed to live like everybody else, but do it legally, follow the law. That's what we're calling for, upholding the law.
Attorney General Avichai Mandelblit is examining using an abandoned property law to relocate the outpost of Amunah in Judea and Samaria to a nearby plot of land claimed as privately owned by Palestinians. A statement released by Mandelblit said there is no legal impediment to examining the status of the adjacent property lot, which could, according to an initial indication, be considered abandoned property. His statement drew harsh criticism from Meretz MK Zahava Galon, who said such a move is tantamount to land theft. On Sunday night, Mandelblit met with members of his staff and government ministries to discuss the Amunah outpost. He is expected to rule by the end of the month whether the defense minister can use the absentees property law to save the outpost from being evacuated. The High Court of Justice ruled that the community of 40 families must be demolished by the end of December because it was built without permits on private Palestinian land. Mandelblit said all modular homes in the community must be removed by that date. A petition was submitted to the court by Palestinian landowners claiming ownership over the land. Minister of Strategic Affairs Gilad Erdan and Interior Minister Aryeh Deri announced the establishment of a new task force that will work to deport activists calling to boycott Israel and prevent others from entering the country. Sima Vaknin-Gil, Director General of the Strategic Affairs and Public Diplomacy Ministry, told the Knesset Committee for Transparency and Accessibility of Government Information on Sunday the task force's goal is to ensure that by 2025, no one in the world will question Israel's right to exist. Today, Israel is seen as a pariah state, she said. Unable to provide details of the task force's strategy to the Knesset Committee, Vaknin-Gil said the focus will be filling the gaps in areas where there is insufficient pro-Israel public diplomacy activity. We don't want to win the battle, we want to win the war, she said. Finance Minister Moshe Kachlon submitted his proposal for the 2017-2018 budget. The plan, aimed at raising Israel's spending levels by billions of shekels, seeks to boost income by imposing tax hikes on pensioners earning 3 times the average national wage, tax and compensation benefits received by workers fired from their jobs, and tax those who own 3 or more residential properties. Kachlon also advises an across-the-board cut for ministries with the aim of saving 2 billion shekels annually. He also suggests revising how kibbutz members pay tax to generate an additional 500 million shekels, and taxing gambling, which the Treasury estimates will bring in an additional 200 million shekels. Chairman of the Histadrut, Avi Nissenkorn, reached a deal with Kachlon to delay a wage increase among the public sector workers in exchange for a guarantee that an additional raise will be implemented at a later date. The budget proposal has spurred resistance from both the Bank of Israel and opposition parties. IBA political reporter Kalev Ben-David is here with the details. Kalev?
Thanks, Laura. The Bank of Israel has criticized Finance Minister Kachlon's budget proposal, especially its raising of the deficit target in 2017 and 2018 to 2.9% of GDP, an increase from the previous targets of 2.5 and 2.25%. The central bank expressed doubt that Kachlon's plan to improve tax revenue collection while cutting corporate and personal taxes will enable it to meet its deficit targets, and warned the deficit could shoot up to 3.5% of GDP in 2019. Bank of Israel Governor Karnit Flug also took aim at the budget's spending priorities, saying more funds should have been allocated on measures to increase productivity by investing in infrastructure and development of human capital. Yesh Atid Knesset member and former Deputy Finance Minister Miki Levy slammed the proposed budget, charging Kachlon with playing politics with public money and saying Israelis would end up paying dearly for this down the line. The budget will now go to the cabinet for further discussion, where it is sure to spur opposition over its cuts to the ministries before it is taken up by the Knesset for further debate when it reconvenes in October. Laura?
Kalev, how much of a political problem is it going to be for the Prime Minister and Finance Minister to get this budget passed?
Laura, there's always some kicking and screaming over the budget. There's certainly going to be here, especially that across the board budget cut for ministries. But this budget has two advantages. One is the increase in the deficit. That's not an issue that gets the Israeli public very excited. Government deficit is a big issue, for example, in the U.S. It's not in Israel, so it shouldn't be that much of a problem. The other, this is a 2-year budget. So basically, probably the last budget this government is going to pass before new elections come in 2019. Nobody in the current coalition wants to see this government fall. They don't want new elections now. So they're going to be motivated to pass this budget by its deadline of next March 31st, where the government would fall if they don't have a budget.
Kalev, turning to other political issues, the Defense Ministry issued a statement apologizing for a statement sent last Friday in which it compared the Iran nuclear deal with the Munich Agreement, which was the failed attempt by several European countries to halt Nazi Germany's aggression in 1938. What spurred the rare apology from Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman?
Although I think we saw this week the battle between the old Avigdor Lieberman, who used to shoot from the hip when he was out of government or had a ministry less vital than the Defense Ministry, and the new Avigdor Lieberman, the Defense Minister, who's got to be more careful what he says, especially about the United States when we're negotiating this new military aid package from the U.S. I expect we're going to see more of the battles in the future between the old and the new Avigdor Lieberman.
Likud lawmaker David Amsalem has said he would propose a bill in the next Knesset session that would shield the prime minister from being investigated for minor offenses while in office. Any chance of this advancing?
You know, it's not an outrageous idea. For example, France has laws that protect the top officials from this kind of thing while they're in office. But to propose it now when Prime Minister Netanyahu is under some kind of investigation, I think it's a non-starter. It may earn David Amsalem points with the Prime Minister, but I don't think it's going to go much further than that.
Kalev Ben-David, thank you so much.
Thanks.
At this hour, a memorial service is underway at the military cemetery in Kfar Saba in honor of Hadar Goldin, one of 2 IDF soldiers killed during Operation Protective Edge 2 years ago, whose body is still being held by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked, Minister in the Prime Minister's office Tzachi Hanegbi, and Deputy Defense Minister Eli Ben-Dahan are scheduled to attend, but only after criticism by the Goldin family over an initial failure by any minister to confirm attendance. Israel is monitoring the activities of a woman's peace boat prepared to set sail for the Gaza Strip from Barcelona on September 14th. According to Palestinian media reports, the boat will stop at a number of ports in the Mediterranean and is due to arrive in Gaza early October. The women's boat to Gaza was initiated by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition and have already purchased their first boat, called the Amal, Hope. Organizers said the aim of the flotilla is to highlight the plight of the Palestinians living in Gaza as well as in the West Bank. Israel's policy is that any boat sailing to Gaza can dock at the port of Ashdod, where all humanitarian aid or care packages can be unloaded and transported overland in trucks to the Gaza Strip. The IDF's crack undercover unit Duvduvan is receiving a collective citation from Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot. The unit, whose members often disguise themselves as Arab to infiltrate into villages or riots, was being recognized for what the army said was hundreds of operations in the heart of Arab areas of the West Bank. Duvduvan led operations in the Central Command, which have included the arrest of terrorists responsible for the murder of the 3 youths, Eyal Yifrach, Naftali Frankel, and Gilad Sher, as well as Eitam and Naama Henkin, and also Daphne Meir, who were all killed in Judea and Samaria. Many of their operations cannot be revealed, the Army said. The Army has sunnier plans for IDF soldiers. Starting this October, the IDF will pay combat soldiers full scholarships for their academic studies upon their discharge from the Army. According to local media reports, the same benefit will be extended to soldiers from minority groups or underprivileged backgrounds, as well as new immigrants, even if they didn't serve in combat units. Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot reportedly hopes to extend the program to all citizens who complete their military service. Israel no longer opposes cutting off power to Palestinian cities in the West Bank over large debts. According to Army Radio, the government no longer intends to exercise its right to instruct the Israel Electricity Corporation to continue supplying power to Palestinian cities. In April and May this year, the IEC began scaling back its electricity flow to Palestinian areas in the West Bank because of a 2 billion shekel debt. The Palestinians petitioned the High Court, which instructed the IEC to temporarily halt the power cuts pending a response from the government. While the government said the matter had a clear national security aspect, which is at the root of the foreign and defense relations of the country, Yaakov Nagel, the acting head of the National Security Council, and other government officials decided not to compel the IEC to continue supplying electricity. Meanwhile, the court injunction against the power cuts remains in place until a further hearing is held on the issue. The Israeli Electric Corporation also cuts power to Israeli homes that are in debt. In an effort to prevent further tragedies of children being forgotten in cars on hot days, some local Israeli apps have come up with ideas to remind motorists to check their vehicles. The Israeli Google-owned traffic fighting navigation app, Waze, has introduced a new safety feature for parents. On reaching their destination, an opt-in alert reminds drivers to check their vehicles. Pango, an Israeli app that allows motorists to pay for parking, has added a banner on its main page reminding parents to check the back seat before leaving the vehicle. Once the parking payment goes through, a second alert is sent reminding motorists to check their cars once again. Taking advantage of the summer break, Israeli-born basketball star Omri Caspi headed a delegation of NBA and WNBA players from the United States to participate in basketball workshops for Israeli youth. The basketball players met with some 300 youth in Ramleh, teaching them playing techniques and, of course, signing autographs for the clearly excited kids. It is the second annual workshop trip sponsored by Bank Hapoalim and the Omri Caspi Foundation. Speaking to reporters, Caspi said the project's aim is to change the image of Israel abroad. In local money matters, shares were up on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, while the shekel strengthened against all major foreign currencies. Here are the figures. The IBA weather team says the weather will remain partly cloudy to fair with no significant change in temperatures. Here are the highs and lows. And that's all for this newscast. We're happy you joined us today and would like to apologize once again for being unable to broadcast yesterday due to technical malfunctions beyond our control. Please join us again tomorrow, same time, same channel. I'm Laura Cornfield, wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.